Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking all about trademarks. You know, that thing that helps you understand and protect what makes your business special. Especially when you're thinking about, going global and all that. We've got a ton of really fascinating articles and research that you guys sent in. So we're going to dive deep into all of that and pull out the really important stuff, the stuff that you need to know to make sure your brand is protected.
It's really a lot more than just slapping a logo on something.
Right, yeah, for sure.
It's like the core of your brand.
Yeah.
The thing that immediately tells people, hey, this is that company.
Exactly, and that instant recognition is so powerful these days, right? But let's just back up for a sec. When we say trademark, what exactly are we talking about? Is it just a visual thing?
Yeah, well, it can be the classic logo for sure. But think about that jingle that gets stuck in your head that's a trademark too. Even a specific color that a company owns or a scent. It's really anything that makes your product or service stand out.
Okay, so it's like a fingerprint, but for your brand. But why go through all the trouble of actually registering it? What's the benefit?
Well, imagine you've spent years building up a reputation for quality. And suddenly some other company pops up using almost the exact same name. Customers are confused. They might even accidentally buy the wrong thing. A registered trademark is basically your legal protection. It lets you stop those copycats and protect all the hard work you put into your brand.
So it's not just about preventing ripoffs, but it's also about maintaining that trust you've built with customers. They see that trademark and they know what to expect. But what happens when you're thinking bigger than just your home country? Does a trademark even hold up internationally?
That's where things get really interesting. Okay, so let's say your product is doing amazing and it takes off in some other country. Now, without trademark protection there, someone could just come in and register your name. And suddenly you're locked out of this market that you helped create.
That's the worst case scenario. So you're saying even if you're just thinking about going global, trademark protection is super important.
It's like setting the foundation for your future success,
Yeah, and I know international trademark registration can sound intimidating, but there's actually a pretty clear path to follow, like a roadmap. Why don't we break down those key steps?
Yeah, I'd love that. So what's the first thing you got to do?
First things first, you need to do a really thorough trademark search. And we're talking global here. You want to make sure your name isn't already taken in any of your target markets. Kind of like before you build a website, you got to check if that domain name is free, right?
Right. Got to make sure you're not stepping on anyone's toes, trademark-wise.
Exactly. Then you got to make sure your home base is covered. So that means a trademark application or registration in your own country. Once that's all set, you can start looking into this thing called the Madrid system for international protection.
Ah, yes, the Madrid system. We keep hearing about it, but what is it exactly? Okay, imagine having to file trademark applications in 100 different countries. Just the paperwork alone would be a nightmare. The Madrid system makes it so much easier. It's run by this organization called WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. Basically, you file one application, choose all the countries where you want protection, and then WIPO handles the rest.
Okay, so it's like a central hub for all your global trademark dreams. That sounds way less scary. But is there a catch? Can just anyone use this system?
Well, there are a couple of requirements. You'd either need to have a business or live in one of the member countries. And you need to already have a trademark application or registration in your home country. It's kind of like, having a home base before you go off conquering the world.
Okay, so you've got your home base, you've applied through the Madrid system. What happens next? What's the process like?
Think of it like planning a trip. You've got your passport, that's your home country trademark. And you've booked a flight with multiple destinations. That's the Madrid system. Now you just got to pick where you want to land.
Yeah.
Right. You choose the specific countries where you need protection. And this is where it gets really strategic.
Oh, so it's not just about checking all the boxes. You really have to think about where you need that protection the most.
Exactly. And then there are the fees, of course. It depends on how many countries you choose and what categories of goods or services your trademark covers. It's like tailoring your protection to fit your business goals.
I see. Okay. So you've submitted the application, paid the fees. What happens on the other end? Is it just a waiting game now?
Well, there's a little bit of that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
WIPO reviews your application first just to make sure everything's in order, and then they send it off to all the countries you've chosen, like sending out invitations to your trademark's global debut.
I like that. So then it's kind of like waiting for those RSVPs to see if your trademark gets approved in each country.
Yeah, exactly. Each country's trademark office does their own review.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a straight up yes, which is obviously what you're hoping for. But sometimes it's more like a maybe, a provisional refusal. That means they might need some clarification, or there's a minor issue that needs to be fixed.
Okay, so it's not an immediate rejection. You still have a chance to explain things.
Right, exactly.
And I guess sometimes it's just a flat out no.
Yeah, that can happen too. Every country has its own trademark laws, so something that's fine in one place might not be in another. That's why it can be so helpful to have an expert on your side, someone who knows all the ins and outs of each country's system.
Yeah, you've been stressing the importance of having a guide, someone who really knows the terrain. But let's say it all goes smoothly, you get your trademark registered in all the countries you want. Mission accomplished, right?
Well, almost. There's one crucial thing. You actually have to use your trademark. It's not enough to just have it on paper. You have to actively use it in those countries, on your products, in your marketing, everywhere. It's like exercising your trademark muscles, got to keep them strong. Or you risk losing that protection.
So it's a use it or lose it situation.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, I get it. But all this talk about international protection, it's making me wonder, why should someone who's just starting out even care about global trademarks?
Think about the internet for a second. Your website is accessible from literally anywhere in the world. So someone in a country you haven't even thought of as a market could see your product. And they might love it, but then decide to register your trademark there. So basically, they're capitalizing on your idea before you even have the chance to.
Wow, that's kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, so even if you don't have plans to take over the world right now, just having that protection in place can prevent someone else from stealing your brand down the line.
So it's not just about defense, it's about being prepared for those opportunities when they pop up.
Exactly. Like, imagine you get a deal with a distributor in another country. Having those trademarks already registered makes you look way more professional and trustworthy. And it can really speed up the whole process.
So it's about having all your ducks in a row ready to go when that big break comes.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay, so we've talked about the why of international trademarks, but what about the what? Like, what kinds of things can you actually trademark? It's not just the company name, right?
Oh, absolutely not. It goes way beyond that. Like we talked about logos, but even those can be broken down further. Is a stylized word? That's called a word mark. Is it a design element? That's a figurative mark. And you can register both separately, which gives you more flexibility.
So like you could have the word Acme in a specific font and then the Acme logo, and each of those would be protected on its own.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting. Remember those jingles we talked about? Sounds can be trademarked too, like that little chime you hear when a certain tech company's logo pops up. You hear it, you know exactly what it is.
Oh, that's smart. So it's about protecting that sonic branding. What about the shape of a product, like those fancy perfume bottles or the design of a car?
You're on the right track. Three-dimensional shapes can absolutely be trademarks. It's about protecting the unique look of your product, making it stand out.
So it's not just about what the product is, but what it looks like, how it feels, even what it sounds like. It's like protecting the whole sensory experience of your brand.
Exactly. And in some cases, you can even trademark colors and scents. Think about that robin's egg blue box. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Or that particular smell when you walk into a certain store. It's about capturing those little details that create a connection with your customers.
That's amazing. Makes you think about the world in a whole new way. Like, what else could be a trademark? But I'm guessing not everything can be trademarked. There have to be some rules, right?
Oh, for sure. The key is distinctiveness. A trademark has to be unique enough to set your product or service apart from everything else. So it can't be a generic term like apple for fruit or shoe for footwear. Those need to stay free for everyone to use.
Right. So it's about finding that balance between describing what your product is and creating a unique identity for it. Are there any red flags, like things that would never be approved as a trademark?
Yeah, the biggest one is being too similar to an existing trademark.
Yeah.
Especially for similar types of products or services. Like, imagine trying to trademark Starbucks coffee when there's already Starbucks. You're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, not to mention a lawsuit. So no copycatting, no trying to piggyback on someone else's success. What else should people avoid?
Anything that's deceptive or misleading. Like, you can't trademark organic cotton clothing if your clothes are actually made from synthetic fabrics. It just undermines the whole system, which is built on trust.
Right, so no lying to customers, basically.
Exactly.
What about things that are just like offensive? Are there limits on what you can try to trademark?
Absolutely. Trademark offices can refuse registrations that are scandalous or immoral. Like, if it would cause a huge public outcry, it's probably not trademark material.
Okay, so no trademarks that would make your grandma blush. Got it. But let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about getting trademarks, registering them. But what happens when someone infringes on yours? Like, what can you do?
That's where enforcement comes in, and it's a really important part of the whole trademark game. Usually the first step is sending a cease and desist letter. It's a formal way of saying, hey, you're using our trademark, stop it. It's like a warning shot.
Okay, and what if they ignore that? What are the more serious options?
Then you might have to consider a lawsuit, which is obviously not ideal because legal battles can be expensive and take forever. But sometimes it's necessary to protect your brand, and your bottom line.
And I imagine having a registered trademark gives you a much stronger case in court.
Oh, absolutely. It proves that you own the trademark and have exclusive rights to use it. It's like having solid evidence on your side. And in some cases, if someone is straight up counterfeiting your products, that can even lead to criminal charges.
Wow, so there are some real consequences for people who try to steal someone else's hard work.
Yeah, for sure. Trademark law is there to prevent that kind of thing and to protect the investments that businesses make in their brands. But enforcement isn't just about lawsuits, it's about being proactive.
What do you mean?
You have to keep an eye on the marketplace. Watch out for anyone using a trademark that's too similar to yours. There are actually tools and services that can help you do this. They flag potential conflicts so you can address them early on.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like having a radar system for your brand, always scanning for potential threats.
Exactly. And remember, the sooner you catch these things, the better.
Yeah.
Because the longer it goes on, the more damage it can do to your brand, and the harder it becomes to stop.
This is starting to sound like a pretty high-stakes game, but let's zoom out for a second. We've gone pretty deep on the mechanics of trademarks. But for someone who's just listening to this, thinking, okay, I get it, it's important, but how does this fit into my overall business strategy?
That's a great question. Your trademark strategy should really be connected to your business goals. Like, are you planning to expand into new product lines? You need to think about trademarks that cover those areas. What about international markets? We talked about how important it is to get those trademarks early on.
So it's not just about protecting what you have now, but also thinking about what you might do in the future.
Yeah, and as your business grows and changes, your trademark strategy needs to grow and change with it. Think of it like a living document, something you revisit and adjust as your brand hits new milestones.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. You gotta stay flexible and adapt as you go.
Exactly. Now, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet that's becoming a big deal in the world of trademarks. Artificial intelligence, AI.
Okay, AI seems to be everywhere these days. How is it impacting trademarks?
It's already having a pretty big impact, and it's only going to get bigger. AI is being used to automate trademark searches, which makes them way faster and more efficient. It can analyze huge amounts of data to find potential conflicts and even predict the likelihood of success for trademark applications.
So it's like having a superpowered research assistant helping you make those decisions. But does that mean trademark lawyers are going to be out of a job?
Not quite. AI is a powerful tool, but it still needs human expertise to guide it, to interpret the results and make those strategic decisions.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Exactly. And as AI keeps evolving, it'll be interesting to see how it changes the trademark landscape. Maybe it'll make the process easier and more accessible for smaller businesses. But let's shift gears for a minute and talk about managing a trademark portfolio. Like, let's say you have several trademarks. How do you keep track of everything, especially when you're dealing with different countries?
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for a massive headache. What are some tips for keeping all those trademarks organized?
The key is organization. You need a system for tracking deadlines because trademarks need to be renewed. And those deadlines are different in every country. If you miss a deadline, you could lose your trademark rights. So it's super important to stay on top of things.
So it's like having a giant calendar with reminders for all your trademarks' birthdays.
Exactly. And another thing, you need to review your portfolio regularly. As your business grows, you might need to add new trademarks or get rid of ones that aren't relevant anymore. It's about making sure your trademarks align with your current business goals.
Like spring cleaning for your trademarks, making sure they're still serving a purpose.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help from an expert. Trademark attorneys and agents can give you really valuable advice on managing your portfolio, keeping you up to date on any legal changes, and helping you create a strategy that works for your business.
So having that trusted advisor in your corner can make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And remember, a trademark portfolio is a valuable asset. It represents your brand's identity, its reputation, its potential. Taking the time to manage it well can pay off in a big way, both now and in the future.
Definitely something to think about. So we've talked about the strategic side of trademarks, the future with AI. But before we wrap up, there's one more dimension I want to explore. The human side of trademarks.
You mean like the ethical considerations?
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about brands, and brands are all about building trust with people. So what are some ethical pitfalls that businesses need to watch out for in the trademark world?
Well, the most basic one is honesty. Your trademark shouldn't be misleading. Like, if you're selling handcrafted goods that are actually mass-produced, your trademark is basically a lie. That erodes trust, and in the long run, it hurts your brand more than any legal trouble.
Right, so it's not just about following the rules, but also about doing the right thing, building a brand that's authentic and transparent.
Absolutely, and this is even more important when you're dealing with different cultures. What's okay in one culture might be offensive in another. Imagine a brand using a culturally important symbol as part of their logo, not realizing that it's sacred to a certain community.
Yeah, that could backfire pretty badly. So you really have to do your research and understand the cultural context.
Yeah, and it's not just about avoiding problems. It's about finding opportunities to do good. Like, are there ways to collaborate with local communities? Maybe incorporate their traditional crafts or designs in a way that benefits everyone.
I like that, turning a potential problem into a win-win. What about competition? Are there ethical considerations when it comes to how you use your trademarks against competitors?
For sure. The whole point of the trademark system is to promote fair competition. Like, imagine a big company trying to bully a small company by suing them over a trademark. Knowing that the small company can't afford to fight back, that's not how it's supposed to work.
Right, so you should use your trademarks to protect your brand, not to stifle innovation or crush your rivals.
Exactly. Ethical behavior in the trademark world is not just about avoiding bad PR. It's about building a brand that people genuinely like and respect, a brand they trust and want to be a part of.
That's a great point. It's not just about protecting your own business, but contributing to a healthier market overall.
Exactly. And that brings us to a final thought. The world of trademarks is complicated and always changing. But those basic principles of honesty, respect, and fairness are always important. So as you build your brand and navigate this world, remember that your trademarks are more than just legal tools. They're reflections of your values.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It's about building a brand that you're proud of, one that not only lasts legally, but also stands for something good in the world.
Exactly. So as you keep learning about trademarks, remember, protect your brand, but also protect your integrity.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the world of trademarks. Hopefully you found this journey insightful and feel ready to tackle the trademark world with confidence and integrity. Until next time, keep those trademarking brains buzzing. All right, so we're back and ready to jump into part 2 of our trademark deep dive. And we left off talking about all the different things you can actually trademark. It's kind of mind-blowing, right? Like, it's not just your company name. So let's dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how far trademarks can go. We were talking about logos before the break, but even those can be broken down further. Think about it. Is your logo a stylized word? That would be considered a word mark. But if it's more of a design, a symbol or something, that's called a figurative mark. And the cool thing is, you can actually register both of those separately. Gives you a lot more flexibility.
So, like, if I had a company called Stellar, I could trademark the word Stellar written in a specific font. And then I could also trademark the actual logo design, the symbol itself.
Exactly. You got it. And it gets even more interesting. Remember those jingles we were talking about earlier? Sounds can be trademarked too. Like, think about that iconic Intel chime. You hear those 4 notes and you know exactly what it is.
Oh, yeah, that's so true.
It's all about protecting your brand's sonic identity.
What about the shape of a product? Like those fancy perfume bottles that have a really unique design.
You're thinking along the right lines. Those 3-dimensional shapes, they can absolutely be trademarks. It's a way to protect the unique look and feel of your product. Helps it stand out on the shelf,
So it's not just about what the product is, but what it looks like, how it feels in your hand, even the sound it makes, maybe. It's like you're protecting the whole sensory experience of your brand.
Exactly. And in some cases, you can even go as far as trademarking colors and scents. Like, think of that Tiffany blue box. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Or that signature Abercrombie and Fitch smell. You walk into the store and you're hit with it. It's about capturing those intangible but powerful elements that make your brand memorable.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, There are trademarks all around us. We just don't always realize it. But I'm guessing there are limits, right? Not everything can be a trademark.
Oh, definitely not. There are rules, for sure. The main one is distinctiveness. A trademark has to be unique enough to really set your product or service apart from everyone else's. So you can't trademark a generic term like apple for fruit or car for vehicles. Those need to stay available for anyone to use.
Right, makes sense. So it's about finding that balance between describing what your product is and making sure it have a unique identity. Are there any red flags, things that would automatically get your trademark application rejected?
Well, the biggest one is trying to trademark something that's too similar to an existing trademark, especially if it's for the same kind of product or service. Like if you tried to trademark Burger Queen when there's already a Burger King, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, that's just asking for a lawsuit. So no copycatting, no trying to trick people into thinking you're someone else.
Exactly.
What else should people avoid?
Anything that's misleading or deceptive. Like you can't trademark all natural wood furniture if your furniture is made from particle board. It's about being honest and transparent.
Right. So no lying to customers, basically.
Pretty much.
What about offensive stuff? Are there limits on what you can actually try to trademark?
Absolutely. Trademark offices have the power to refuse registrations for trademarks that are scandalous, immoral. You know, things that would generally be considered offensive. It's like if you wouldn't want your grandma to see it, it's probably not a good trademark.
Okay, so no trademarks that would make your grandma blush. Got it. But let's switch gears a little bit here. We've talked a lot about the process of getting trademarks, registering them. But what happens when someone infringes on your trademark? Like they're using your logo or your brand name without permission. What can you do about that?
That's where enforcement comes in. And it's a crucial part of the whole trademark process. Oftentimes, the first step is sending a cease and desist letter. It's basically a formal way of saying, hey, you're using our trademark, you need to stop. Kind of like a warning shot.
Okay, and if they ignore the warning, what are your options then?
Well, then you might have to consider taking legal action, filing a lawsuit, which is obviously not ideal because lawsuits are expensive and time-consuming. But sometimes it's the only way to protect your brand and your business.
I imagine having a registered trademark gives you a much stronger case in court.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's proof that you own that trademark and have the exclusive right to use it. It's like having solid evidence on your side. And in some cases, if someone is blatantly counterfeiting your products, they could even face criminal charges.
Wow. So there are some serious consequences for people who try to profit from someone else's hard work.
Definitely. Trademark law is there to deter that kind of behavior and to protect the investments that businesses make in building their brands.
That makes sense.
But, enforcement isn't just about lawsuits. It's also about being proactive.
What do you mean by that?
You have to keep an eye on the marketplace. Be vigilant about watching for anyone who might be using a trademark that's similar to yours. There are actually tools and services out there that can help you do this. They scan the internet and flag potential conflicts so you can address them quickly.
Oh, that's smart. Like having a radar system for your brand.
Exactly. And the sooner you catch these things, the better. The longer an infringement goes on, the more damage it can do to your brand, and the harder it can be to stop.
This is starting to feel like a pretty high-stakes game, but let's zoom out for a second. We've gone pretty deep on the technical stuff, but I think it's important to connect this back to the bigger picture. Like, for someone listening to this, how does all this trademark stuff fit into their overall business strategy?
That's a great question. Ideally, your trademark strategy should be integrated with your overall business goals. Like, are you planning to launch any new product lines? You need to think about trademarks that will cover those. Or are you looking to expand into new markets, maybe internationally? We talked earlier about how important it is to secure those trademarks early on.
So it's not just about protecting what you have right now, but also thinking about what you might do in the future.
Absolutely. And as your business evolves and grows, your trademark strategy needs to evolve and grow with it. Think of it as a living document, something you revisit and adjust as your brand hits new milestones.
So it's not a set it and forget it type of thing. You got to stay agile.
Exactly. Now, there's one thing we haven't touched on yet that's becoming a really big deal in the trademark world: artificial intelligence, AI.
Ah, yes, AI. It seems like it's everywhere these days. How is it impacting the world of trademarks?
It's already having a significant impact, and its role is only going to get bigger in the future. For example, AI is being used to automate trademark searches, which makes them faster and more efficient. It can analyze huge amounts of data to identify potential conflicts and even predict how likely a trademark application is to be successful.
So it's like having a superpowered research assistant.
Exactly.
But does that mean trademark lawyers are going to be out of a job?
Not quite. AI is a powerful tool, but it still needs human expertise. Someone to interpret the results and make strategic decisions.
So it's about finding that balance between human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Exactly. And as AI continues to evolve, it'll be interesting to see how it reshapes the trademark landscape, potentially making the process more efficient and accessible for businesses of all sizes.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But let's shift gears for a minute and talk about managing a trademark portfolio.
Sure.
Let's say you have several trademarks, maybe for different products or services. How do you keep track of everything, especially when you're dealing with trademarks in multiple countries?
That's a great question. And it can definitely be a challenge. The key is organization. You need a system for tracking deadlines because trademarks have to be renewed periodically. And those deadlines vary depending on the country.
Oh, wow. So it gets pretty complicated.
It can, yeah. But if you miss a deadline, you could lose your trademark rights. So staying on top of things is crucial.
So it's like having a giant calendar with reminders for all your trademarks' birthdays.
Exactly. And it's also important to review your trademark portfolio regularly. As your business grows and changes, you might need to add new trademarks, or maybe let go of some that aren't relevant anymore. It's all about making sure your trademark portfolio aligns with your current business goals.
So it's like spring cleaning for your trademarks.
I like that analogy.
Making sure everything is still serving a purpose.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to seek out expert help. Trademark attorneys and agents can provide invaluable guidance on managing your portfolio. They can keep you updated on any legal changes and help you develop a strategy that's tailored to your specific business needs.
So having a trusted advisor can really make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, a trademark portfolio is a valuable asset. It represents your brand's identity, its reputation, and its potential. Taking the time to manage it effectively can have a significant impact on your business, both now and in the future.
Definitely something to think about. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the strategic side, trademarks, the future with AI. But before we wrap up, there's one more dimension I want to explore. The human side of trademark.
You mean the ethical considerations?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about brands, and brands are all about building trust with people. So what are some of the ethical pitfalls that businesses need to be mindful of in the trademark world?
Well, I think the most fundamental one is honesty. Your trademark shouldn't be misleading. For instance, if you're selling handcrafted goods that are actually mass-produced, that trademark is essentially a lie. And that kind of deception erodes trust. Ultimately, it hurts your brand more than any legal trouble ever could.
Right. So it's not just about following the letter of the law. It's about the spirit of it. Building a brand that's genuine and transparent.
Absolutely. And this becomes even more important when you're dealing with global markets. What might be considered acceptable in one culture could be deeply offensive in another. Imagine a company using a culturally significant symbol in their logo, without realizing that it holds a sacred meaning for a particular community.
Yeah, that could be a PR nightmare.
For sure.
So it's crucial to do your research and understand the cultural context of the markets you're entering.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding offense, it's also about being proactive and looking for ways to do good. Are there opportunities to collaborate with local communities? Maybe incorporate their traditional crafts or designs in a way that benefits everyone involved.
I like that. Turning a potential ethical minefield into a win-win situation.
Exactly.
What about competition? Are there any ethical considerations when it comes to using trademarks against competitors?
Definitely. The trademark system is designed to foster fair competition. So it's not ethical for a large company to use its resources to bully a smaller competitor by filing frivolous lawsuits or trying to stifle innovation.
Right. So trademarks should be used as a shield to protect your brand, not as a weapon to crush your competition.
Precisely. Ultimately, ethical behavior in the trademark world is not just about avoiding bad press. It's about building a brand that people can truly believe in, a brand that they trust, admire, and want to support.
That's a great point. It's about contributing to a healthier marketplace overall.
Exactly. And that brings us to a final thought. The world of trademarks is complex and constantly evolving, but the core principles of honesty, respect, and fairness remain constant. As you build your brand and navigate this landscape, remember that your trademarks are more than just legal tools. They are a reflection of your values.
That's a powerful way to put it. It's about building a brand that you can be proud of, one that not only stands the test of time legally, but also stands for something meaningful in the world.
Exactly. So as you continue to explore the world of trademarks, remember to protect your brand, but also protect your integrity.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of trademarks. We hope you found this journey insightful and feel equipped to navigate the trademark terrain with both confidence and integrity. Until next time, keep those trademarking brains buzzing. All right, we're back for the final part of our trademark deep dive, and we've covered so much ground already, from the nitty-gritty details of registration to the future of trademarks with AI. But before we wrap things up, there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to explore. It's something that doesn't always get enough attention, I think, and that's the human side of trademarks.
Oh, you mean the ethical considerations?
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about brands here, and brands are all about building trust, relationships with people. So what are some of the ethical pitfalls that businesses need to be aware of in the trademark world?
Well, I think the most fundamental one is honesty. Your trademark shouldn't be misleading in any way. For example, if you're selling a product as handcrafted, but it's actually mass-produced in a factory, that trademark is essentially a lie.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
No, it's not. And that kind of dishonesty erodes trust. In the long run, it'll damage your brand's reputation more than any legal trouble ever could.
So it's not just about following the rules, it's about doing what's right, building a brand that people can truly believe in.
Exactly. And this becomes even more critical when you're dealing with global markets. What might be considered perfectly acceptable in one culture could be deeply offensive in another. Let's say a company uses a culturally significant symbol in their logo, thinking it's just a cool design. But they don't realize that this symbol holds a sacred meaning for a particular community.
Oof, yeah, that could backfire in a big way.
It definitely could.
So it's essential to do your homework, understand the cultural context of the markets you're entering.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding those kinds of missteps. It's also about being proactive and looking for opportunities to make a positive impact. Could you collaborate with local artisans or craftspeople, maybe incorporate their traditional designs or techniques in a way that benefits everyone involved?
I love that. It's about turning a potential ethical minefield into a win-win situation.
Exactly.
What about competition? Are there any ethical considerations when it comes to how businesses use their trademarks against competitors?
For sure. The trademark system is designed to encourage fair competition. So it's unethical for a larger company with more resources to try and bully a smaller competitor by filing frivolous lawsuits or trying to stifle innovation.
Right, so trademarks should be used defensively to protect your own brand, not offensively to attack others.
Exactly. Ethical behavior in the trademark world is not just about avoiding negative PR. It's about building a brand that has integrity, a brand that people can genuinely trust and admire.
I love that. It's about creating a healthier marketplace for everyone.
Exactly. And that brings us to a final thought. The world of trademarks is incredibly complex and it's constantly changing. But those core principles of honesty, respect, and fairness, those are timeless. So as you're building your brand and navigating this landscape, remember that your trademarks are more than just legal tools. They're a reflection of your values, of who you are as a company.
That's such a powerful way to put it. It's about building a brand that you're proud of, one that not only stands the test of time legally, but also makes a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. So as you continue on your trademark journey, remember, protect your brand, but also protect your integrity.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of trademarks. We hope you found this exploration insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Remember, your brand is a reflection of you, so build it with care, with integrity, and with a vision for the future. Until next time, keep those trademarking brains buzzing.
दोस्तों ये वीडियो कहीं से कहीं तक किसी भी तरीके का एडवर्टीजमेंट ना है, ना इसे माना जाए, ना इसे समझा जाए, सिर्फ एक ट्यूटोरियल वीडियो है नॉलेज पर्पसेस के लिए। थैंक यू।